Hi, in this video, I'll brief you about Electro Impedance Spectroscopy and the machine that is used for performing these kind of activities, and also what is the importance of performing EIS, then how do we do it, and what do we do with the data that is going to come out of this Electro Impedance Spectroscopy testing activities. The Electro Impedance Spectroscopy is a very important testing process which helps us to understand the internal characteristics of a lithium-ion cell. Which we will do this test by using a specific equipment which can do a frequency sweep. The machines come with a various different range of frequency sweeps, and also the amount of internal resistance that the machine can measure. So certain machines can measure as lowest internal resistance as possible. Some machines can also start a slightly different range. And the machine can also do a specific range of frequency sweep. Because we are going to perform it on a lithium-ion cell, the lithium-ion cell requires something like 1 millihertz to up to about 20 kilohertz. The machine in default can come with a higher frequency range, but it is very important to understand what is your lowest frequency range that you can perform. So as I said, for EIS to perform on the battery or a cell, you would require something like 1 millihertz and up to 20 kilohertz. So when you perform this frequency sweep, the cell will give you the specific voltage response. That voltage response is being captured by the machine and then logged as a data and a values for us in the computer. So when you get this log or the data, we will be able to analyze that information to know what is the characteristics of electrolyte, what are the characteristics of the anode materials, the cathode materials, the specific behavior of the diffusion activities, the charge transfer activities, and all of that. So this information is very important if somebody is developing a cell. If you're manufacturing a cell, you're using a specific type of electrolyte. If you're using a specific type of bonding materials, or if you want to study and understand what is the internal resistance of the cell because of all of these parameters, which is contributing the cell to develop a coin cell or a pouch or a prismatic cell for your R&D activities. So what do we do with the help of this equipment? So it is very simple and straightforward to use the equipment and then conduct a test. But what is more important for you is to get the data and make the meaningful sense of that data that is coming out of this machine. So here we have from Hioki, that is IM3590 chemical impedance analyzer. This can do 1 millihertz to up to about 200 kilohertz of a frequency range. For now, we are conducting a LFP prismatic cell to perform this test. This test machine comes with a specific test leads, so it is very important for you to choose a specific test lead. If you want to perform a test on a cylindrical cell, you get a different jig. If you want to perform a prismatic cell, you'll get a different jig, all right? Then on top of it, you also need to opt, if you want to collect the data on the PC, you have to opt for an Ethernet-based connectivity so that you can control the test and also collect the data in the PC for you for the data analysis and then further activities in place. So as I briefed you, it is very important that you perform this test to know the internal characteristics of a lithium-ion cell. This test and these machines are typically used for the deep R&D activities when you're developing a cell and to know if you change certain parameters, how does that impact on the life of the cell, on the behavior of the cell. And we use this test data to also study and understand the aging characteristics of a lithium-ion cell. Because when we say the aging characteristics, it is the internal resistance of the cell that is increasing. And this internal resistance doesn't stay constant across the whole SOC of the cell as well, or the pack level as well. So there are companies which are developing a very novel, innovative approaches. Rather than estimating the SOH, you can actually measure the SOH. So to develop all of these R&D activities, this machine is very useful for you. And then you can conduct these experiments in the thermal chamber. That means at 10 degree, minus 10 degree, 45 degrees Celsius, because the internal resistance is a function of temperature. So that you will be able to conduct these tests at a thermal chamber and get to know how the cell is behaving as well. And then internal resistance is also a function of cyclic aging. That means you also can couple this machine with the cyclic testing and then perform the EIS at every 50 cycles to know how your internal resistance graphs are changing with respect to the age of the cell as well. And then obviously you can perform this test with respect to an SOC, because SOC and internal resistance are coupled to each other. There is a relationship between both of them. You can charge the cell and discharge the cell at every 5% intervals, at 10% intervals, bring back the cell and conduct the experiment. When you perform all of these activities, you will get the data and you can plot a Nyquist plot. With the help of the Nyquist plot, you can get your imaginary curves or realistic curves, and you can estimate the internal resistance and very specific parts of the internal resistances. That gives you very insightful data to know what is happening inside the cell without even breaking or cutting open the cell. That way, it is a very important tool for you to have in the lab if you are performing the battery or cell R&D activities. So the Decibels lab doesn't just supply the equipment for you, which also gives you an in-depth training to understand what is the behavior of the cell with respect to EIS and the data that you get, and so that your research becomes much more meaningful than just having an equipment staying at a stationary pad for you. With that way, we look forward to help you in making your journey to understand what is EIS by supplying you the equipment and the complete test setup. So if you're interested in exploring the depth of journey to know the cell, you can contact us and we'll be able to help you out in understanding how to use the EIS for your test activities in place. Thank you very much.